Hey, how's it going? It's Craig. I'm out in the garage and today we're going to do our first mod to the pinball machine. Let's take a look. Okay, so I've barely had this machine in the garage a week and I've already bought my first mod for it, so I'm really looking forward to doing this. The mod we're going to be doing is a pretty big one. It's quite an expensive mod to do, but it's something I wanted to do straight away to it because I knew if I left it a while I probably wouldn't get around to doing it again. And that is replacing the DMD on the back panel there. So as you can see, it's got an orange and black display at the moment. The orange has like a bit of a gradient to it, similar to what like a Game Boy does with the yellow and black display. But it's quite an important part of the game, and it shows you a lot of gameplay, and you do challenge modes on their things. So it's one thing that I've seen some ColorDMDs out there, and I really wanted to change it up. So I've gone ahead and bought a ColorDMD display. It arrived really quick. It came from Pinball Palace. I think it came the next day after ordering it, and it's just been sat here waiting for me to do since. But basically what we're going to do today is take this back panel apart, take that one out. There's a couple of wires you've got to swap over. It's pretty much plug and play, but there are a couple of cables you need to swap. And then we'll boot it back up and see if we get a ColorDMD. This one should be program ready. This is the LCD version rather than the LED version. Again, there's two preferences on that. You can have an LED version like you've got there, but in color RGB, or you can go for an LCD IPS screen. The reason I went for the IPS LCD screen is that I think it's a little bit more future-proof. If the guys manage to do anything in the future, it's probably going to be around this screen. And also these panels are interchangeable, so I could take this out, put it into another cabinet in the future if I wanted to as well. So it's a pretty much of an investment as much as a mod. I'm going to get stuck into it now. There's a couple of bolts and things we need to remove, and then we'll swap out the panel and see how it looks. Cool, let's take a look. Okay, so this is what comes in the package. I've opened it up quickly just to make sure everything was in there and the screen was okay when it arrived. Really well packaged, as you can see. Nice foam inserts in here. So basically we've got a LCD panel. Let's move this out of the way a second. LCD panel and then an interface board like on the back of it. This isn't too dissimilar to most of the things you're doing on mods these days for LCD panels. It's got a protective screen. There's not bubbles in the screen. There's a protective layer on there which we'll have to take off in a bit. The mounting holes down these sides are basically built for different pinball machines. So you can actually put this into a Williams, you can put it into a Data East, you can put it into pretty much any pinball machine that will take a replacement DMD. Then we've got a bag of accessories. So in here there's a couple of cable replacements, an earth cable, which I've already got one in here. So I think that somebody may have had a ColorDMD in here at one point because it's got the same crimp connections on there as these. But everything else is pretty much plug and play. We're going to take it step by step. So it tells you the instructions there, but I've also printed them out here, and these are the instructions that ColorDMD give you on their website to install it. I had a quick look through just to see how difficult it is, and it does look pretty much plug and play. There's a couple of cables which are routed right into the harness, which I'm going to have to try and get out, but we'll see how that goes, and then hopefully we'll get this up and running in a couple of minutes. Cool, let's take a look. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is power it down. Let's say goodbye to our orange DMD at the back, and we're going to power it down on the wall and unplug it, so no risk of shock to that now. We're going to need to open this back box up. We're going to take out the Translight image. We lift that out. We're going to undo the lock at the top of it first of all, and then we're going to lift this down and lay it onto the actual pinball table just to get access to this back panel. So let me go ahead and unlock all that, and we'll catch up in a sec. Okay, so we've got our back panel. We've got our ribbon cable which goes up to the top here. That one stays in place on the main board but comes out of here, obviously, because we're going to take this panel out. The second one is our power connector, and this one goes up to J604, I think it is. So that one's going to come out, which is this connector here. So we're going to pull that one out, It says in the instructions to bring the cable right the way out. I'm not really sure why you have to take it all the way out, or whether I can actually just cable tie it out of the way. Because I wouldn't mind keeping it there for future use if I do want to put the original DMD back in. This is quite neatly cable tied in at the moment and things, so it's in there quite well, and I don't want to really deroute it, risk knocking anything else out. If I can probably just tape that off and put it out of the way a little bit. So I don't think it's going to cause any trouble, because we're going to disconnect both ends on it, so it's not going to be a live connection. So I'm not really sure what the issue is about leaving it in place. I might ask on some of the forums with that. Okay, so let's unplug it from the system. You squeeze the sides, I think it's got pressure clips on there. Give it a little bit of wiggle and then a tug, and it comes out. It can only go in and out one way, because it's got 2 pins on one end, then a blank, and these got 2 pins and a blank, and then the rest of them. So I don't see why I couldn't cable tie that here, just so it's out of the way and it's not going to get caught on anything or touch anything. And the other end of this cable down here, we're going to do the same. We're just going to wiggle this off of these pin connectors down here, and I'm just going to tuck this down here for now, so this can tuck down into the table itself. It's out of the way. There's other cables going down that way. I don't see what the point is of derouting all that and risking knocking anything else when it's a dead cable now, it's disconnected. So I will cable tie it out of the way so it's nice and neat, maybe back on itself a little bit, and then just cable tie it around here maybe, just so it's neater and out of the way. But otherwise I just don't think there's much point in taking it out. Cool, so let's take this one out as well. Again, ribbon cable, we're literally going to wiggle it out, easy connector, that's out. Okay, so we're going to take out the hardware from this now. I've got 2 nuts here to the other end as well, which we're going to take out. They're fairly loose, I imagine. I don't think they're a tight fit, because I don't think you'd want to be putting too much pressure on it anyway. So unscrew that. We're going to keep the hardware that sits underneath these. Okay, so we've got one nut there, a nut there, a washer and a washer. I think that's it until we take the DMD out. Then we've got to do the other end, here and here. This is an 8mm socket, so fairly easy to take out as long as you don't get it stuck to the speaker. And they just need, I think this has been out before, as I said. It's got that earth cable on there, and they're very loose, they're not tight at all. So whether this had a different DMD fitted, as in a colour one, or whether it's had just a replacement in the past, maybe it had a fault and it's been replaced. So okay, so that's all 4 of our screws unscrewed, or the bolts unbolted. We now got to lift this panel out. I'm going to move the camera just so we can see us doing that. Cool. Okay, so let's lift this panel out now. Okay, so there's our old DMD. Pretty decent condition. Everything's in there. We're going to keep this safe just so we can put it back in if we wanted. There was no dead lines or any dead pixels on this, so I was pretty happy with the quality on it. It's got a little bit of burn in there, you can see, but it doesn't really matter on an LED display. But yeah, we're going to keep that for future use. Okay, now we're going to remove these 4 black plastic spacers. We're going to need them in a bit. In our bag we've got 4 new spacers, I think, which go on first. Let's have a look. Yeah, so 4 white spacers which go on first. There's 4 white spacers are on. The inside of this is looking pretty clean, so I'm going to get a little cloth just to wipe it off, just to make sure there's no dust in there. Now time to install our DMD. We're going to do it this way up. It fits onto here like this, but one more thing I've got to do before we put them in place properly. So it fits in like that, but we need to take off the protective lens, so let's peel that off. and without touching the screen, middle pins on this Williams pinball. That's all the way in. Next thing we're going to do is put our black washers back on, but before I do that I'm going to put the earth cable back onto this one. I have it coming out to the side slightly. And we're going to put our black washers back in. And then next up we put our fasteners back on. What I'm going to do is just tack them off. I'm not going to tighten it up loads, I'm just going to tighten it up a tiny bit, just so it's not loose. Okay, so they're all tight. Next thing for us to do is wire in our power and our cables now. So in the bag, we've got a couple of cables. So we have a cable and an adapter, a male to male adapter. We'll put that aside because we're going to need that in a second. This connector here, the double-ended connector, goes up to the board side, and then the single-ended connector goes onto our system. So we put that on there now. Over here, okay, nice and secure on there. I'll put that to a side a second, we'll plug that into the board in a second. Okay, so we're going to plug in our ribbon cable now. So this is our feed from our system. The red cable side goes to the closest to the buttons, is probably the easiest way, and that just pushes in nice and easy onto that connector there. Okay, so we've got two connectors on this one now. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up to this board, and then we want J116. As I said earlier, all the cables in here are labelled. So J116 is this one up here for me. I'm going to pull that cable out. That's our connector. We're going to need that in a second because we're going to need to connect that via the male to male connector. So let's see if we can do that a second. Okay, so I've got my male to male connector. There's only 3 pins on this. There's 3 pins on this one, so I'm going to make sure you connect it in the right way round, which is that way round. 3 pins into there and connect it in. Next thing we're going to do, take our cable. Okay, so we're going to connect the end connector into our board on the J116. Remember, it's got 3 pins and a blank, so we want to make sure we're doing it the right way around. So this one goes into here. I can reach. There you go. Push it in nice and tight. And then our male to male connector that we connected earlier, and our other cable that was on there, connects into this connector here. So let's do that. There we go, and that should be it. Cool. Okay, before we forget, I'm just going to tape this off. I'm going to put a tape around the end of it, and then make sure that's covering all the contacts. Just tidy around there, just so it's out of the way as well. And then I'm going to use a cable tie just to tuck it away nice and neat. So let's find a place where it can sit nicely. So around here, put a cable tie behind this cable, and I'm literally just going to cable tie that into there. Not too tight, I want to be able to get it back off later, but I just want it tucked out the way, so that's absolutely fine with me. Let's snip off that excess on there. Cool. Okay, so I think that's pretty much everything. All the cables are in. DMD info cable is coming down from the main board. Our power cable is in to J116. We've got the male to male connector connecting the cable that we took out of there, and I've taped off and cable tied that one out of the way and tucked the other end of it down into the main pinball table. So that's all out of the way. So next thing for us to do is try and put this all back in nice and neat. Okay, so next thing for us to do is to plug him in. We're going to plug it in and see what we get out of it. I'm going to leave the back board open and everything so you can see what's going on. Got some power straight away. And there we go, ColorDMD running. Wow, that looks crisp. Nice. Okay, so there's buttons on the back of this to adjust the settings on it. You can adjust the pixel amount and everything else on there, so we're going to have a play around with that in a second. But at the moment I just want to take a look through it, see how it goes, and then yeah, amazing. I'm loving it so far. Look at that colour. You can see what they've done at the moment. So at the moment the pixels are being enlarged and rounded, so you can see where everything's a bit soft looking, whereas the other one, it looked a little bit more harsh, I suppose. The harder edges to it, more pixelated. Oh, that's pretty cool. Amazing. Let's launch it, see what it looks like, and then we'll have a play around with the menu in a second. Cool. Okay, so just in behind here is the panel that we were looking at earlier. We plugged our cables into, and there's four buttons on there. So I'm going to reach behind here, and the bottommost button should take us into our menu. So there's our ColorDMD info, serial number, ROM file that's installed on there, and the product key. I don't know whether I'm going to need to blur them out. I might blur them out anyway, just to save anyone copying it and me getting in trouble with ColorDMD. Then you've got contrast, backlight, style, which is scan at the moment. I don't know what these are. We're going to run through some of these in a bit. Vertical adjustment, looking pretty good at the moment. I'm not really worried about adjusting that up and down. I think because it's on the mounting points where it needed to be, it looked really good on the gameplay. Save and exit without saving, and that's it. So I think I can go out of the menu, back in again. So contrast, let's see what we can do on this. So we can go up to 9 and obviously down to 1. Yeah, you can see the difference on this. So down to 1, you can see a little bit more pixelation when it's down to 1. A little bit higher up. Let's put it back to 5 how it was. Backlight, so you can turn it right up if you want it nice and bright. It's a 9. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. So that top button takes you back a menu. Middle two buttons are up and down on your selection, so I'm going to leave it as 5. Style, so this is the one I want to play around with. So we've got high res .xl, which I think is what I'm going to preference and keep it at. Style dots or 8-bit style. What I'll do now is tile, so that's pretty cool as well. So I do a little bit of video on each of these just so you can see what it looks like. Scan was what we were on originally. Let's try the next one, which is tile. Oh, how do I get back? There we go. So this is tile. So that looks pretty cool. I quite like that one. That's quite nice. Let's try the next one. 8-bit. Okay, that's pretty cool as well. So there's more jaggedy edges to it, like I mentioned earlier. The other one seemed a little bit more rounded on that scan setting. That's quite nice. Dots. That one's quite nice as well. That looks a little bit like the original, doesn't it? That's quite nice. Oh, gone past it. Oh. Dots XL. That one's quite cool as well. I like these more pixelated ones than the smoothed ones, if I'm totally honest. Let's see what it looks like when it says to start. I don't know how I got onto this scoreboard. I'm absolutely crap at this game. Only on the loops. I haven't even got the minimum one yet. That one's quite nice, isn't it, with that? You can see the detail there. Okay, let's try again. Let's see what the next one's like. High res. Okay, that's quite nice, but it feels like that the first one we had on when it came as default. Looks very soft and rounded. That's my text message going off. Bonus points if you can name the game that just went off in my pocket. Okay, I'm not convinced on that one. And we're back to scan. So let's leave it at, so what do I like? I think I'm going to leave it as tile. I quite like tile. Okay, let's do some gameplay with tile. I'll put the backlight, translight back in, and we'll go from there. Cool. Okay, so that's all installed. This is on the tile version of the settings, and as you can see, you've got some nice gaps between the pixels on there. To me, this is the most authentic for this kind of game. The other ones look a bit too soft edged for me, but this one looks quite nice, and I quite like the style to it. You never know with these kinds of projects where they're going to go in the future, so for all I know, they might be working on a firmware update which allows it to do other things in the future. But it's a really good project, and that looks really nice now. So let's give it a bit of gameplay. I'll try my best. I'm not very good at this game. I only had it a week, so I'll try and get into some of the video modes, at least try and get supercharger and things like that going, but we'll see how it goes, and then we'll come back and have a look at it at another point. Cool. Okay, there's a video mode of the map. Multi-ball.
your hands up. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to...
Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. It looks really good. Didn't improve my gameplay at all. I'm absolutely crap at this game so far. But you got to see some of the gameplay then, and you got to see the multi-ball and the actual video game part of it as well. So that looks really good in the colour. I'm really pleased that I've done it now. Yeah, this cabinet is just impressing me week after week. I've only had it about a week, but day after day I'm addicted to this thing. I'm out here all the time playing on it. I'm still not very good at it, so I've got a lot more hours to put into it to get a really good high score on it. I think I've got 75 million. I think the minimum to get on the scoreboard is about 90 million. I'm absolutely useless, if I'm totally honest, but I'm getting there, and I'm sure it'll come with time. So yeah, cool. Thank you for watching. Hope that's been of use to you, whether you're watching this because you're installing one yourself, or you're just watching it because it's a little bit something different, and it's a pinball mod rather than one of my usual mods. So thank you for watching. Do your usual, comment down below, ask any questions. Also, if you know anything about this and you've got any comments, please put them in the comments down below. As I said, the only bit of the guidance I've not followed is by tucking that one cable away, electrical taping it and cable tying it off. The rest of it I followed the ColorDMD guide pretty much to the letter. So if you're using this as an install guide in any way, then you might want to do that differently. But for me, that is there now, and if I want to swap this back over, I've got the cables there ready, so I'm pretty happy with that. Cool. Alright, catch you soon.